Hey guys. Welcome back to the channel. This is part 1. What if Naruto was a son of Usagi? Use the Sailor Moon fist in the Chunin exam. Basically I try something new for you guys. So, please show your support. But before I start, please do like and subscribe. If you are new on my channel. Now let's start one of the unexpected story of Naruto. Usagi was in tremendous pain as she lay on her hospital bed, desperately trying to give life to the child within her womb. There was a sense of urgency knowing that the hospital could soon be under attack by that horrific tailed beast, the QB looking into the midwife's eye. After a push Usagi could see the fear that resided in the midwife's heart. If the woman had the ability to look back on her life and not focus on the immense pain she was currently in, she would have been surprised at the route her life had taken. Konoha was not her native town, in fact the world she was living on was not even the world of her birth. 8 years ago she had been caught in the explosion caused by the destruction of Pharaoh 90. When she had awakened in the Konoha hospital she was told that a genin team lead by their Jonin sensei had found her washed up on the shore, surrounded by the wreckage of things they couldn't identify. She then had met with the team that had found her, and that's where she met him, Minato Namikaze. The two of them had a few minutes of conversation before Minato offered to let her stay with him for a few days until she could get back on her feet. At the time she didn't know why, but that night she revealed to Minato the fact that she was from a different world. Minato was shocked for a moment, but then just smiled and accepted this as a fact. Minato explained to Usagi that, while he believed her, most of the people in Konoha wouldn't believe her and call her crazy. That night the two of them stayed up crafting a cover story for her. In the end they decided to say that she was on board a ship from a country across the Eastern Ocean that sank. To explain away her unique abilities, Minato said that they would just say that it was a bloodline limit. Everyone accepted the story except for the Hokage who they told the truth to. Over the years she and Minato kept in close touch until 3 years ago when Minato asked her to marry him, and she accepted. They were married just 6 months after the end of the Leaf Rock War and 2 months before Minato became the 4th Hokage. When she had found out that she was expecting a child she and Minato couldn't be happier. However, for the past 2 weeks she had been ill and was bedridden in the hospital in order to make sure that her and her child would be safe. Then that blasted fox had to appear and her child decided to come out now of all times. The pain of giving birth was beginning to be unbearable for her, her son seemed stubborn in wanting to come out even though she had gone into labor. After one last push she heard the crying of her child taking his first breath in the world. One of the midwife's assistants came next to her and said, "You have a healthy baby boy Usagi." Sarutobi silently cried as he looked at the little baby sleeping peacefully in his arms. The little boy was only a few days old, but sadly most of the civilians in Konoha harbored a deep hatred for the little babe. They blamed little Naruto for the sins that the QB had wreaked on Konoha, even though the two were separate persons. When Sarutobi thought about the situation he let out a curse towards his predecessor, "Damn you Minato. I should have been the one to use the seal not you. As a result of your stubborn determination your only son is now an orphan and hated by the village we've sworn to protect. At least our ninjas respect your skills enough to know that your son is not the QB." Sarutobi stopped his gripping when he saw a furry black cat with a crescent moon on her forehead moving quietly along the corners of his office. Sarutobi then spoke up and said, "Hello Luna, is there something I can help you with?" Luna turned her head to look at Sarutobi before she walked near and jumped onto his desk. Luna looked lovingly at the little babe resting in the old Hokage's arms before speaking, "Yes, there is something you can help me with. You can tell me your plans are for my prince." Sarutobi almost chuckled when he looked at Luna as she spoke to him. It always made Sarutobi smile when he saw Luna and Usagi's good cop, bad cop routine. Although the little advisor was always overly paranoid in his mind, one could tell how much she cared about Usagi and now Naruto. In his wise old grandfatherly voice Sarutobi said, "Don't worry your little head Luna. You know that I loved Usagi like she was my own daughter, just like almost everyone who knew her. Besides, I owe Minato quite a lot and the village is sadly just increasing the debt owed to Naruto's family. I've gotten the council to leave Naruto alone, but I can't adopt him like I would have liked to do. I've arranged for you and Naruto to have a small cottage on the edge of one of the quieter edges of town. Sadly, Naruto can't live in his parents' house until he can claim his father's name, and we both know the conditions for that to happen." At this point both Luna and Sarutobi bowed their heads in thought. Naruto would have to have his true name hidden to protect him until he became a Chunin, he reached 18 years old, or he married. Luna's face grew firm as she spoke, "I may only be able to be in my human form for 1 hour out of 3, but I will take care of Naruto. When they really needed help, I couldn't help his mother or his grandmother. I will not fail Naruto now when he needs my help." Sarutobi just nodded his head and thought that maybe Naruto's luck was about to change. Almost 12 years later. In a meadow on the edge of Konoha, as the sun was casting its evening light, a little boy could be found. Naruto Tsukino, the future Hokage according to him and that demon brat, according to some of the nastier villagers, was hard at work practicing his martial arts. Naruto didn't know why most of the older villagers hated or ignored him, but he wanted to change that. He wanted to become Hokage to protect a few people that were kind to him and to show the others how wrong they were about him. Sweat was starting to run down Naruto's face as he finished his rough kata. The kata was choppy and had a lot of holes in it, but it was coming along fairly well and in a few days should be his 7th custom kata. At the ninja academy, the martial arts instructor seemed to have a grudge against him and would only teach Naruto the minimum. It had been about 4 years ago when, just a few days into the academy, Naruto noticed that some of the kids were better in that particular class and were using different styles. Determined not to be outdone, right then and there Naruto had silently vowed to create a powerful family style for the Tsukino family. Over the past 3 years Naruto took his minimal academy training, his observations of Chunin practicing, and his own gut instinct to slowly form the Gintas Kaiken, Silver Moon Fist, style of martial arts. It wasn't just his own observations that he used in creating and refining the Silver Moon Fist. Whenever he could, Naruto would go to the local library to read about ninjas. Those books had been a godsend to Naruto whenever he was stuck on something. The most blaring example of this happened a year ago when he was trying to get a basic framework for the Silver Moon Fist together. Naruto was on the verge of giving up and going to old man Sarutobi for help when he read that some martial arts schools were based on the movements of animals. Ever since then Naruto had adopted the feline movements of Aunt Luna. Suddenly Naruto's practice was interrupted by a voice yelling, "Naruto, get in the house now. Supper's starting to get cold." After yelling that he was coming, Naruto started to walk back home where Aunt Luna was waiting for him. Naruto might have thought it strange that his aunt was a talking cat who, on occasion, could transform into a human, but he just took it as a fact of his life. Luna and Naruto loved each other dearly, even a blind man could see that about the aunt and nephew. One thing that Naruto liked about Luna was that she supported him in everything he did. She never claimed that something was out of his reach if he worked hard enough at it. While Sarutobi and later Iruka cared deeply for Naruto and he cared for them, they just weren't there 24/7 like Luna was with him. When Naruto had said, at age 5, that he wanted to become Hokage, Luna had told him that he would have to work hard to get there and she would help him. When Luna taught him what she could about being a ninja, she made sure that he paid attention and heaven help him if she found out that he had been slacking at the academy. Naruto walked through the door of the small cottage to see Luna waiting on the dinner table in her cat form for him. After Naruto sat down at the table the two of them began to eat. It was a simple meal that Luna had prepared for them as even after 12 years of practice, she could only make simple meals. The meal was eaten in silence as Luna was too busy eating her meal and Naruto was, for the moment, tired out. Once dinner was over and the dishes taken care of, Naruto hurried upstairs and then hopped out of his bedroom window onto the roof. It was a warm evening with clear skies granting Naruto the full view of the heavens. Ever since Naruto could remember, he was fascinated by the heavens. There was something about the stars and the moon that just seemed to call to him. Naruto knew the names of all the stars and their locations throughout the year by heart. Naruto could with a glance at the heavens and tell where he was to within a second or two of his actual position. When Iruka had found out about that skill, he had told Naruto that it would help Naruto on long-distance missions. Naruto spent a few hours just looking at the moon and forgetting his worries and troubles. Whenever he was feeling nervous or troubled, Naruto had found a quick glance at the moon calmed him down. Once he had told this fact to Luna and said that it was quite funny as his name meant Maelstrom of the Moon. For a moment Naruto swore he saw shock on Luna's face, but when he looked again, she was smiling and agreeing that it was quite funny. Slowly Naruto's eyelids closed as the young ball of energy went off into dreamland. "Where on earth am I?" Naruto yelled into the air around him. The last thing that he could remember was falling asleep on the roof of the cottage, which definitely wasn't where he was now. Looking around him all Naruto saw was the fallen ruins of some grand marble building and that he was apparently in the courtyard of the building. Naruto closed his eyes and said to himself, "Okay, first things first, I'll figure out where I am and then I'll plan from there." Naruto opened his eyes facing the heavens to see the earth. Naruto started to freak for a second before he got control of himself and smirked. Going over the situation in his mind Naruto almost laughed, interesting genjutsu. I have to admit that it had me going for a second, but that earth is just a dead giveaway. Naruto then proceeded to try the release method for dispelling the genjutsu. Seeing that the side around him was the same Naruto started to grumble, okay someone knows what they're doing when they created this illusion. However, there's more than one way to break an illusion. Naruto then grabbed a sharp rock that was lying on the ground and proceeded to cut his arm. I would advise you to stop trying to undo this as it's not an illusion. A soft gentle voice from behind Naruto said just as Naruto's cut was rapidly healing. Naruto spun around to face the owner of the voice and demand that she explain herself. However, Naruto's plan stopped when he gazed on the image of the woman in front of her. She was unearthly beautiful with long purple hair styled in ox horns with streamers. On her head rested a delicate diamond crown, while her face was gentle and caring, with a crescent moon birthmark on her forehead. Her dress was simple and pure white. The woman smiled at Naruto and said softly, "My name is Queen Serenity, and I mean you no harm, Naruto. In fact, I have been waiting a long while to meet you." Naruto lowered his guard, for some reason his instincts were telling him to trust this queen in front of him. Still, where were they and why was a queen waiting to meet him? These two questions gnawed at the back of Naruto's mind demanded to be answered. As if she saw his inner struggle, Queen Serenity calmly said, "I'm sure you want to know where we are and why I want to meet you." Serenity then sat down on a fallen marble pillar and motioned for Naruto to sit next to her. Trusting in his instincts, Naruto quietly complied with her request. "Now then, Naruto, we are currently in an area between the world of the living and the afterlife, where our souls can meet and talk. You see, I died long ago when the kingdom whose ruins are shown around you was destroyed. Now for the second question that is likely on your mind, why does she want to meet with me requires a backstory to understand." A sad look crossed Serenity's eyes, and a tear fell as she remembered those days. However unpleasant these memories were for the late queen, Serenity was determined to not let them get the better of her, and so continued her tale. "You see, Naruto, the universe is like a great tree with many branches. These branches or dimensions represent different chains of events that result in different things happening. I come from a different dimension than the one you live in. A long time ago, in my dimension, there was a large empire spanning across the entire solar system, and I was its queen. But my empire was destroyed when a woman, who desired my daughter's boyfriend, made a pact with an entity of pure evil and together destroyed my empire. I had managed in the end to seal this entity along with the woman into another dimension. Seeing my world literally dying in front of my eyes, I used the last of my strength to send the soul of my daughter, her love, her friends, and the few surviving people of my kingdom to be reborn on the planet Earth. My daughter Serenity was reborn on Earth as Usagi Tsukino. When she was 14 she met my advisor Luna and gained the ability to use a portion of her royal power. She, along with her love and friends, fought against several evils that were threatening the people around her. During her last battle with a powerful creature known as Pharaoh 90, Usagi was caught in the aftershocks of the creature's death and sent to your dimension. She then met your father and later had you just before she died. So see Naruto, I'm your grandmother." Naruto just sat there for a minute trying to process what this lady, his grandmother, was telling him. Hesitantly Naruto asked, "So I'm really your grandson and a prince?" Serenity just smiled and nodded her head towards her grandson before she pulled him into a hug. Naruto couldn't be happier that he had found out about his family. All that Luna would tell him when he asked was that his father was a high-ranking ninja and that she couldn't tell him more until certain conditions were met to assure his safety. Serenity then pulled Naruto back and had him face her before she seriously said, "Naruto, I don't have a lot of time left to talk to you, so I'll be brief. Shortly after you were born, Naruto, the QB was sealed inside of you. Ask Luna or that kind old Hokage to tell you the full story. The point of me telling you this is that having the QB within you jump-started your lunar royal powers. As a member of the lunar royal family you have immense power naturally and power that you draw from the moon. Your powers have been active since that beast was sealed within you, constantly fighting against it. As a result of this constant usage, along with the purifying nature of our lunar energy, the QB has been killed. However, this great piece of news has left you with a very serious problem. Your body, on its own and by drawing from the moon, naturally generates the power of 12 kgs all the time. However, your body at its current state can't withstand the strain. Even with your healing ability that you took from the QB, your body will soon destroy itself due to its young age and not fully matured chakra network. But don't worry about it, my handsome grandson, I've been able to create a solution for your problem. Thanks your excess power and my limited abilities, I was able to alter how you naturally generated your energy. You now have 3 states, grandson. These states are in order of weakest to strongest. Civilian, Senshi, and Royal. Your civilian form is limited to only the energy that your body naturally generates on its own. With the Senshi state you gain control of about 1/10 of the energy you draw from the moon, in addition to your natural strength. The final state, Royal state, grants you full access to the powers of the moon that you currently can call upon. As long as you don't go for days on end at your current training level, your Senshi form will not cause your body harm. Your Senshi form also grants you an armored outfit along with some powerful attacks that you will instinctively know. Moving on, you have to know about your royal state. It is incredibly powerful, but you can at your level of training only hand its power of at most 30 minutes before it harms your body. If you are ever forced to use it in a fight, end it as quick as possible. In order to reach these states you have to say the transformation words for them. Don't worry yourself about the transformation phrase, when you wake up you will know them. Also, as these powers are going to be transmitted to your descendants, I want you to know that they will all learn on their own what their transformation phrase. Even if their transformation phrase is the same as another person's and they utter the phrase, they won't be able to transform until they learn from within themselves what the phrase is. Knowing that their time was almost up, Serenity pulled Naruto into a hug again and whispered softly in his ear, "I love you, grandson. Your parents are very proud of you and how you've grown. Don't cry, dear one, this isn't the last time that we will meet each other. I'll pop in from time to time just to visit or when you really and honestly need me." The landscape around Naruto started to get foggy like a mist was rolling in. Just before he felt his grandmother's arm stop hugging him, Naruto whispered, "I love you, Grandma." Naruto woke up with the morning sun to find himself on the roof of his house. Pulling himself up into a sitting position, Naruto briefly wondered aloud, what that all just a dream? He immediately shook his head, knowing in his mind that what had happened had not been a dream but something more. While Naruto wanted to find out more about why he had carried the QB, he wanted to try out his new abilities a lot more. Naruto hopped off the roof and down to the ground before he took off running towards the meadow where he liked to practice. Stopping in the middle of the meadow, Naruto hurriedly looked around to make sure that no one was by chance near him. He then calmed down and remembered what his grandma had told him about accessing his powers. Naruto closed his eyes and began trying to meditate to find out his transformation phrase. It took a few minutes, but Naruto succeeded and found his senshi release phrase. Naruto was a little confused about the phrase and with a questioning tone said, "Moon crystal armor, energize." As soon as the last word was uttered from Naruto's lips, a bright flash of silver light hid him from view. When the light ended only a second later, Naruto could feel the large surge in his power level and the sharpening of his senses. Wanting to know what he now looked like in his senshi form, Naruto quickly walked over to the edge of the meadow where there was a small stream. Looking back at Naruto from the water was a young boy dressed in a silvery white outfit that looked like something from the 1001 Nights that Luna sometimes read to him. The cape of the outfit was pinned with a small silver crescent moon. Due to the hood of the cape and the face mask of the outfit, one could only see Naruto's startling blue eyes. At Naruto's right side was a small curved silver dagger, while at his right side was an ornate but functional katana. For a moment or two Naruto just admired his new outfit, then he began to wonder at what special abilities it granted him. As soon as Naruto asked that question in his mind, knowledge of his abilities began downloading into his mind. The dagger at his side had an attack called Selene Shield Shatter. This attack would, depending on the amount of energy he put in it, destroy any barriers that a person created via jutsu or magic. The sword at his right, besides having an incredibly sharp edge, had a mid-range attack called Serenity Slash. Finally, Naruto's longest range and most precise attack was summoning a magic bow and unleashing an Artemis arrow. Naruto was thinking about trying out one of his attacks, but then he heard a noise coming from behind him. While pulling out his sword, Naruto turned to face the cause of the noise. Suddenly a scent that Naruto unconsciously recognized floated by his now extremely sensitive nose. His brain putting a face to that scent, Naruto suddenly let out a cry of surprise, "Luna. Luna, if that's you, can you please come out now to where I can see you?" From behind a small bush, out walked Naruto's feline aunt. Luna, with a look of surprise on her face, sat down on her hind feet in front of Naruto and uttered out, "How did you?" At this point, Luna lost all ability to speak and just pointed to Naruto's new outfit silently. Naruto was confused for a second, but then realized what she was referring to that had left her speechless. Within his mind Naruto debated whether or not to tease her. However, Naruto decided that he didn't want to be so mean to Luna, especially since it looked like she was about to have a heart attack. "I fell asleep last night looking at the moon. I then found myself in some marble ruins that looked like they were on the moon. There I meet the spirit of the last queen of a lunar kingdom who claimed to be my grandmother. She then says that I have had the QB placed in me, but that because of my royal heritage, my body destroyed the QB. She told me that I would be able to transform into this senshi form as she called it and also a royal form, but that the royal form would be too dangerous for me for now." For a minute after Naruto stopped his explanation, both he and Luna stood in the field silently. Then Luna clapped her hands together in a little prayer and said, "Thank the goddess, I always was afraid that the QB would prevent you from showing your full heritage." Luna's face then turned serious as she looked Naruto directly in the eyes and continued to speak. "Naruto, de-transform immediately and speak of this and your heritage to no one. Today, while you're taking your genin exam, I will speak with the Hokage about this." Seeing that Naruto was about to complain, Luna said, "Naruto, this is very serious. Some people may take your new power as something given by that demon, even though it's not. Also, your mother was known for her royal abilities, even if she just claimed that they were a bloodline limit. While your mother was quite well-loved, she also had enemies who were jealous of her. Those enemies of hers plus the enemies of your father, if they put two and two together, if they see your royal abilities will come after you to terminate you." Luna was now sporting a tear in her eye as she continued to speak to the now worried Naruto. Please Naruto, I lost your grandmother and then your mother. I would die now if I lost you as well. I know that you have craved to be accepted by the village as a whole, but is that acceptance you so crave worth dying so soon after you gain it? Soon you will be strong enough to protect yourself and all those that you hold dear from those who seek to harm you and them. Then you will have that acceptance you so crave, but you have to wait for that point. Naruto thought about what his aunt had to say. He quickly decided that having the respect of the villagers wasn't worth putting his life and the lives of his few precious people on the line. Naruto then closed his eyes and focused on de-transforming. After a minute, Naruto found the mental switch to flip so that he could return to his civilian form. A brief flash of light ladder and Naruto was standing in front of Luna. Naruto then reached down and gave Luna a big hug while he was happy saying, "Thanks for the advice Auntie Luna. I love you." At this Luna smiled before replying that she loved him as well. This family bonding moment was broken when Naruto suddenly realized something that he yelled out, "I have to be at the academy in 10 minutes and I'm not ready." Luna suddenly found herself floating in the air as Naruto ran for the house to quickly pack what he needed for the test. She quickly backflipped in order to land on her feet and then turned to look at Naruto's dust trail. Suddenly Luna remembered an earlier time when she would watch a different blonde run about trying to get to class on time. Even though Usagi's death still hurt the black cat, thinking about her and how she could be found in her lovable son brought a tear to Luna's eye. Quietly Luna whispered, "You would be proud of him, my beloved princess. He's everything you said you wanted in a child and I promise that I'll always help him reach his full potential." Naruto roof hopped as fast as he possibly could towards the ninja academy, hoping that he wouldn't arrive late for the exams. Still, he had to admit that if he was late he would at least have a good excuse. That would be if, as he realized, he could tell it to Iruka. However, Luna had taught Naruto not to break his word once he gave it and Naruto especially didn't want to break his word to Luna. Luckily for Naruto, he managed to make excellent time and got into the classroom before Iruka. So, even though Naruto was technically late, Naruto didn't get in trouble for being late. Naruto managed to contain his excitement as he listened to what Iruka was saying. "Now then class, today is the day you have all been waiting for. Today you will be able to show that you have what it takes to become full-fledged ninja of Konoha." At this almost the entire class broke out in cheers before Iruka quieted them down. He then handed them a paper test and told them to start. Once he collected the completed tests, Iruka then said to the class, after pulling out a clipboard, "Now I want you all to form a line and we'll head down to the gym. Once we get there, you will all be tested on your throwing accuracy, your taijutsu, and your stealth capabilities." It took a few minutes and the use of Iruka's infamous, at least among students, big head jutsu to get the rambunctious 13-year-olds to form the line that Iruka wanted. Once he had corralled the Cat's Air graduate hopefuls, Iruka led them down to the gym where Mizuki was waiting for them. Once their throwing accuracy test, in which Naruto scored above average, was done the students were told to sit on a bench. The students had been sitting for a few minutes while Mizuki and Iruka talked to each other before Mizuki walked up and said, "Okay then class, I'm sure you all want to know why you're sitting here. Well then, we've decided that, in order to test your taijutsu skills, we're going to have each of you fight a one-on-one match with your fellow students. Please note that you will not be allowed to use nin or genjutsu in the match, and you are also not allowed to use weapons of any kind. Now don't worry if you lose, this is just for us to see how good your pure taijutsu is, and while taijutsu is important to a ninja, it is not the only skill a ninja needs to succeed." Since only one match was being held at a time, the students not currently fighting were just shooting the breeze with their friends. Naruto was sitting with his legs in a lotus meditating position with his hands crossed over his chest deep in thought. However much Naruto wanted to think about what he had found out about his life, his musings were quickly interrupted by Kiba who yelled at Naruto saying, "Hey Moonfish, what happened this morning? Did your funny feline excuse for an ant have trouble with a hairball or something?" Not wanting Kiba to get the last laugh or insult Luna, Naruto fired back, "What would you know dog breath? After all, your owner Akamaru knows that you're too stupid to understand the spoken language." Kiba's mouth was wide open in shock as his and Naruto's classmates started laughing at him. Turning to see Naruto smiling at him with laughter in his eyes, Kiba shook his head and thought to himself, "That's a point to you my friend." Although Kiba and Naruto seemed to fight like cats and dogs, the two were reasonably good friends. Suddenly Naruto and Kiba heard Mizuki call out, "Will Naruto Tsukino and Kiba Inuzuka please come up for their fight?" At this the two friends got up and smiled at each other as they approached the ring. Once the two of them had reached their ends of the ring turned to face each other, each confident of their victory over their friend. Mizuki just looked at the two and said, "You both know the rule for this match, begin." The two boys shot at each other and began to ferociously attack each other. Both the Inuzuka and the newer Tsukino family styles were animalistic in their attacks. It seemed to the onlookers that Naruto and Kiba were trying to claw each other's throats out. However, Kiba spent most of his taijutsu practice time at home and in class working with Akamaru. This fact meant that Naruto, who was faster and more unpredictable, was able to exploit several holes in Kiba's defense that would normally be protected by Akamaru. Finally, Naruto ended the fight by exploiting one of the holes in Kiba's defense. Naruto delivered a powerful kick to the other boy's ribs with one foot and another kick to Kiba's head. Naruto then backflipped off of Kiba, who was falling to the floor unconscious, to land on the ground hunched over on his back legs like a cat. A couple of the students who had been watching the fight clapped and Iruka smiled saying, "Very good, Naruto. Now can you bring Kiba over here so that I can wake him up? After all, do you want to have a rematch after class with an angry Kiba and Akamaru because you caused them to miss the rest of the test now, do you?" When Naruto heard this, he just grumbled a bit and dragged Kiba over to the sidelines. Naruto was starting to look around where he was for something to wake Kiba up when a hand went in front of his face. In the hand was a small container of smelling salts. Looking down the arm attached to the hand, Naruto saw that it was Ino who had gotten the salt for him. With a quick thank you, Naruto grabbed a container from Ino and promptly used it to get Kiba up. Ino and Naruto then helped the still wobbly Kiba get over to the bench. Ino then had to leave for her match against one of the other girls in class. Kiba then, while only paying half attention to the fight going on, turned to face Naruto and said, "Good fight there, Naruto." Kiba then smiled and said, "But you do realize, Moonfish, that if I was allowed to have Akamaru with me in the fight, we would have cleaned your clock." Naruto playfully shook his head and said, "I must have hit you harder, then I realized, dog breath, you're suffering from delusions brought on by head trauma." The two rivals and best buds stopped their good-natured teasing to see Ino knock out her opponent. The two boys knew that Ino would win as her opponent was one of, besides Sakura Hirano, Sasuke's biggest fangirls. Although it annoyed the two boys that Ino, who was kind of their friend, was an Uchiha fangirls, they knew that at least Ino didn't let her crush distract her too much from her training, which was more than most girls could say. After the last two students had their match, everyone headed outside to where Simgenin, in the most desired D-ranked mission available that day, had set up a very complex obstacle course. Iruka walked in front of the class and then said in his stern teaching voice, "Alright class. As you can see, behind me is a large obstacle course. Inside of this course are numerous non-lethal traps and noisemakers. You must go through the obstacle course to the other end where there is a scroll inside a blood seal with your name on it placed by me. After you've retrieved the scroll, you are to make your way back through the course to here where you will give me the scroll. Now then, before I start calling out names, there are a few things that you should know about this course. You will be graded on how fast you complete this course and how silently you complete it. All along the course are various things set up that, if disturbed, will cause a bell to be rung. Also, if you activate a trap and are caught by it, you will automatically fail this part of the test." Iruka then let that information sink into his students' brains, then he started calling people to run the course. The first few people he had called up were abysmal failures, getting caught by the first of 30 non-lethal traps. The next person managed to get through the course, but rang the bell a few times and took a good while to complete. Most of the class either completely failed the course, rang the bell a lot of times, or rang the bell a few times and took a very long time to complete the course. However, Naruto just had to be difficult and disrupt the set pattern by finishing the course in the fastest time, without ringing the bell once. A few of Sasuke's fangirls were baffled that Naruto was able to complete the course so well compared to Sasuke, who was only average in the course. Finally, the students were herded into the classroom where they waited to be called for their final test. After a few minutes, Naruto's name was called and the smiling blonde boy was led by Iruka to a separate room for his testing. Iruka closed the door and with a smile on his face said to Naruto, "Okay Naruto, I want you to use the substitution jutsu, the hedge jutsu, to become the Hokage and create at least 2 clones." Naruto was confident about the substitution and the hedge jutsu, but he was nervous about the clones. Even with his hours of training for years, he still was pathetic with the clone jutsu. Still, he was so close to becoming a ninja, so Naruto left it up to chance and tried his best. His substitution jutsu was quite impressive as he switched with a potted plant on the other side of the room. Next, Naruto hedged into the Hokage and was given a simple nod from Iruka, showing that he had passed. Finally, Naruto performed the clone jutsu and closed his eyes. Naruto opened his eyes to see 2 clones around him. One could pass as him if a person's eyesight was less than great. The other clone looked like a badly burnt large roast. Naruto cringed at the sight and turned to face Iruka and asked, "Do I become a ninja or not, Iruka?" Iruka scratched his head, thought about it for a moment, and then said, "Well, your clone technique is, to be blunt, the worst in the history of the Ninja Academy. Your other skills are enough to make it up. Therefore it is my pleasure to declare you a new ninja of Konoha." Naruto practically jumped up and down when he heard the news that he had graduated. He watched as Iruka put his hand in the box containing the forehead protectors for the graduates and pull out a protector. Haruka then handed the forehead protector to Naruto, who eagerly put it on his forehead. Naruto then left the academy after hearing Haruka tell him when to show up for team placements. Upon arriving at his and Luna's home, Naruto found that Luna had left him a note on the table. Picking up the note, Naruto read. "Dear Naruto. Sorry I'm not here to grade you when you get home from your genin exam. It doesn't matter to me whether you pass or not, as long as you do your best at it. However, I do sincerely hope that you pass your exam, as I know how much you want to be a ninja. I've picked up some groceries that we were out of and put them away. I'm now heading over to visit the Hokage to talk about the you-know-what. However, you know how busy the Hokage can be, so it might take a while to talk with him. Hopefully I won't leave you here alone for too long, and I won't be mistaken for that Hell Beast Tora again. Love. Auntie Luna." Naruto smiled after he read the note and placed it back on the table. It still amazed him that people could mistake his Aunt Luna for the most feared nightmare of all D-ranked missions. The last moron who had made that mistake was still walking funny from Aunt Luna's 1,000 years of pain technique, which involved shoving the poor victim's own arm up their own butt. Not even Sarutobi had been able to figure out she did that on one of his own ninja, and in cat form no less. Naruto then sat at the dinner table trying to decide what he should do while he waited for Luna to return to the house. Suddenly a thought came to Naruto's mind that he said out loud, "Hey, Luna doesn't want me to reveal my royal powers to anyone until she can talk to me. However, she never said anything against me practicing my powers as long as I don't get caught." At this, Naruto rubbed his hands together like the archetypical troublemaker before he ran out the door to go to one of his favorite training fields. Naruto ran for a few minutes until he reached a meadow that was far away from any Homer training ground in Konoha. Once there and Naruto made sure that no one was around, Naruto grinned and shouted out, "Moon Crystal Armor, energize." Naruto felt the now familiar power of his senshi form flow into himself, leaving him stronger than any two average jonins. Naruto then said to himself after he saw that he was in the same exact outfit as last time, "You know, if I'm not supposed to reveal that this is me, how on earth can I use this form to fight other ninjas?" At that thought, Naruto crossed his arms across his chest and thought for a few minutes. Then he snapped his fingers when the answer came to him. "I know. I can go by an alias. Now what's a good name for this form? Mighty Moon, no, that name's horrible. Should I go as Serenity Soldier? No, that just isn't right for me." Naruto thought long and hard about his options for a few minutes before he said, "I know. I'll go by the name Moonlight Knight. It fits as it connects me to the moon, which is where I get my extra power, and it shows my royal heritage with a noble title." The newly named Moonlight Knight then thought about the next issue he should solve. One thing that he hadn't gotten to test with his senshi form, which was one of many things, was if he could use his ninja skills in the senshi form. To start this off, Naruto preformed a simple substitution jutsu. After running though his, admittedly small, collection of jutsu, Naruto found that he couldn't use his hedge jutsu and that the clone jutsu just as bad as his untransformed state. Naruto spent a few hours going over his skills and getting used to his senses and reflex while in senshi form. He was about to go home when his enhanced ears heard the sound of maniacal laughter. Naruto, while still in his senshi form, quietly approached the source of the laughter to see Mizuki running with a large scroll on his back and a sadistic grin on his face. Naruto thought about what to do when he heard Mizuki say something that made up Naruto's mind. "Once I deliver this to Lord Orochimaru, I'll become even more powerful than that old fool of a Hokage." Naruto recognized that name from his history class and knew that, whatever it was that Mizuki had on his back, could not reach the most vile and infamous traitor that Konoha had ever produced. From his position on a large tree branch above Mizuki, Naruto pulled out 3 shuriken and let them fly at a ferocious speed. Mizuki barely sensed the shuriken in time to avoid a fatal encounter involving them and the back of his head. However, while Mizuki did avoid death, he lost several locks of hair and had his right ear cut. Mizuki cried out, reflexively protecting his bleeding ear with his right hand. Enraged and with a touch of madness in his eyes, Mizuki yelled out into the night, "Who's the bastard who did this? Whoever did this should reveal themselves to me right now, and I might just grant them a quick death." At this, Naruto smirked and said, thus drawing attention to his location on the branch, "I did that, you traitor." Mizuki looked on at Naruto standing there with one hand on the trunk of the tree and the full moon glowing behind him and yelled out, "I just want to know, before I kill you, just who the devil are you?" Although a little nervous due to the fact that he had never been in a death match before, Naruto confidently answered back, "I'm the Moonlight Knight. Just so that you know, I shall be the last person you meet before you met the devil in hell." But the pleasantries dispensed with, Mizuki started off their fight to the death. He pulled out a huge windmill shuriken from a small seal on his wrist and sent it flying at Naruto. Naruto waited calmly for the shuriken to come to him as he planned out his next few moves, eternally grateful now that Luna had made him play those strategy war games. Just as Mizuki was about to smirk at the thought that his oversized shuriken would hit Naruto, Naruto quickly drew his sword and quickly sliced the shuriken in half. While Mizuki was shocked at the sight, Naruto just smirked and yelled out, "Not good enough, now why don't you try my attack, Serenity Slash." But that Naruto preformed a quick horizontal slash, and a wave of silver energy went flying in the shape of a crescent moon towards Mizuki at extreme speeds. Mizuki instinctively knew that the Serenity Slash, if it hit him, would kill him, no ifs, ands, or buts. The traitor leaned back and rolled quickly to the left. Mizuki was rolling away so fast that he lost track of where he was in the forest and hit himself against a tree. While the tree didn't do any lasting damage, it did stun Mizuki. This stunning, along with the shock at seeing the Serenity Slash dig into the ground about a foot before exploding, leaving a 2-foot wide and several feet long crater in the ground, gave Naruto the time he needed to get down from the tree and stab Mizuki's heart. The last thing Mizuki saw before his eyes closed forever was Naruto de-transforming back into his regular form. Once he dropped out of his senshi form, Naruto came out of his adrenaline rush and fell down on the ground in shock at what he had done. Naruto, well trained to be a ninja and had known that this would eventually happen, was still a young teenage boy who had just taken his first human life. Naruto raised his hands and looked slowly between them and Mizuki's still warm body and back again for a few minutes. He then leaned over and heaved up the snack that he had before training. Naruto, after he was done emptying his stomach, smacked his face and shakily said, "Get a grip, Naruto. You knew that this was eventually going to happen when you signed up to be a ninja. You've stopped a traitor from giving something that is of obvious importance to one of the greatest criminals out there. What was it that the old man told you about this situation? He said one can't restore or return what was lost, only continue on and never forget about it, never forgive themselves should they forget the pain." Naruto approached Mizuki's corpse and turned his gaze to the scroll on Mizuki's back. Speaking to himself again in a very tired voice, "Come on Naruto, you just have to return this scroll to Hokage and then put this behind you." Naruto took the scroll from Mizuki's back and started walking off towards the Hokage tower. He was about to leave the area when he shook his head and returned to Mizuki's body. Traitor or not, Naruto knew that he just couldn't leave the body there in the field exposed. With a great deal of effort, Naruto picked up the body and carried it bridal style back to the village. It was 10 minutes after Naruto started walking towards the tower that he ran into Iruka and Anko, who had teamed up with Iruka to find Mizuki and the scroll. The Chunin and Jonin took one look at the blank look on Naruto's face, the scroll on his back, Mizuki's body, and figured out that Naruto had stopped Mizuki. Iruka promptly sealed the body of his deceased, now ex-friend and then led Naruto straight to the Hokage. In the Hokage's office when Iruka and Naruto arrived were a very worried Sarutobi and Luna. Both of them quickly grew sadder and more worried when Naruto told them that he had killed Mizuki after he heard him talking about giving the scroll that was on Mizuki's back to Orochimaru. Sarutobi, sensing that Naruto was leaving something out of his report, dismissed Iruka after telling the worried Chunin that the team lists would be on the Chunin's desk at the end of the week. Once Iruka had closed the door, Sarutobi turned to Naruto and said in his worried grandfather voice, "Now then Naruto. What was it that you were leaving out of your report?" At this Naruto's surprise showed for a moment before he realized that the Hokage had been around and had been a ninja since, according to Luna, before his father had been born. Naruto then said, "Everything is as I reported it. However, I was training in my senshi form at the time Mizuki encountered me, and it was with a sword I have in senshi form that I slew Mizuki." Sarutobi figured how hard it must be for Naruto to use something he had been so excited about earlier today to take another person's life. The kind old ninja then got out of his chair and gave Naruto a comforting hug. Softly the old Hokage whispered in Naruto's ear, "I know this is difficult for you Naruto. Just remember this, you have been given great power and with great power comes great responsibility. Tonight you wisely used a power that you have to protect this village from a very dangerous enemy. That scroll you recovered contains the most powerful jutsu known in this village and you prevented it from going to a man who would use it to kill the people of this village." Sarutobi ended the hug and sat back down in his chair. This allowed Luna, who had now transformed into her human form, to walk up to Naruto and give him a hug. She also had some words of comfort to say to her charge. "Naruto, I want to tell you something about your mother. When she first received the ability to access her powers, your mother was quite scared by it. I can't tell you how many nights she would cry herself to sleep because she didn't want the power she was burdened with. But your mother was able to find the courage and strength within herself to accept her burden and use it to protect others. I'll tell you something Naruto, I see that same courage and strength that I saw within your mother within you as well. And just like your mother, you have your friends who will help you through this and all other challenges." Naruto now had a smile on his face. He was still upset and in pain due to what had happened with Mizuki, but he no longer was tormented by it. Knowing that he had Aunt Luna, Old Man Sarutobi, Iruka, and even Kiba and Ino backing him up had returned Naruto's spirits to him. Remembering the scroll on his back, Naruto swung it around and into his hands before he handed it over to Sarutobi. Sarutobi gladly accepted the scroll from Naruto before putting it by his desk. Lighting up his pipe, Sarutobi let out a puff of smoke before he started talking. Naruto, in all of the commotion today, we've never gotten to explain to you the full situation with the QB. You see Naruto, when the QB attacked Konoha, it was like a force of nature. None of our jutsu slowed the beast down or even scratched it. Even at his strongest, the Yondaime Hokage could only hope to seal the foul demon. To this day, I am convinced that only one person in history who could have hoped to have truly slain that beast once and for all on that day. That person was your mother, Usagi Tsuchino Namikaze. However, about a month before you were born, your mother was attacked and badly wounded by Rouge ninjas from Iowa. Both you and your mother lived through the attack, as your standing here shows, but your mother was badly wounded. At the time the QB attacked Konoha, your mother had been confined to her hospital bed due to a horrible infection that had set in as well as the lingering effects of poison from the attacker's weapons. Your mother had somehow established an empathic connection with almost all the ninjas of Konoha. The mental shock of all of their death by the QB, plus her injuries, prevented her from living more than a few minutes after your birth. Left with no other hope, your father Minato Namikaze took you and used the dead demon-consuming seal to lock the QB forever within you at the price of his soul. Yes, Naruto, your father Minato Namikaze was the Yondaime Hokage. I had your last name changed to your mother's maiden name to help protect you from your father's enemies. I can understand if you want to take the Namikaze name again, but please don't do so until you are at least a Chunin, so that I can rest easier knowing that you can protect yourself from your father's enemies. Naruto closed his eyes for a few minutes to fully digest what Sarutobi had told him. He had for a while suspected that he had some sort of blood connection to the Yondaime due to how much they looked alike and how little information about the Yondaime's family was available. However, he had figured that their relationship was something like the Yondaime being an uncle or cousin to him, not that the Yondaime was his father. While other boys might have been angry at the Yondaime if they were in his position due to what his old man had done to him, Naruto wasn't angry at all. It was the only way to protect the village, and he would have never respected his father if his father had chosen someone else instead of him to bear the burden of the QB. Besides, the QB was dead thanks to the power of his mother that flowed through his veins. Opening his eyes, Naruto looked directly into Sarutobi's eyes and said, I understand why my father did what he did. I would have cursed him if he had dared to choose someone besides his own flesh and blood to have to bear the burden. Don't you worry about me going by my father's clan name anymore, Sarutobi. I belong to the Tsuchino clan, and it is the Tsuchino clan, not the Namikaze clan, that I plan to make into the greatest ninja clan. I would greatly appreciate it if you would transfer any and all holdings my parents left me in the Namikaze name over to the Tsuchino family. I may respect and admire my parents, but I will not rest on what they have done, and I will not have people respect me just for what they did. With said, Naruto bowed his head in farewell before leaving to go home. About 3 minutes after Naruto left to go home, Luna left to join her nephew with a scroll in her mouth. The scroll contained a few techniques that Sarutobi had written down and had asked Luna to give to Naruto. On the way out the door of the tower, Luna passed by a Jonin who waved at her. Luna recognized the Jonin as one of the ninjas that Usagi had been very good friends with. If Luna could read the Jonin's mind, then she would know that the Jonin was determined to get Naruto as part of their genin team and would accept no other answer but yes. In the classroom about 2 weeks later, all of the new genin were assembled and waiting for Iruka to come in and tell them which teams they were going into. Naruto was thinking back to the 4 jutsus on that scroll that Sarutobi had given to Luna. On the scroll was Earth Release, Inner Head Decapitation Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu, which was a clone technique that he could actually do, Great Clone Explosion Jutsu, and Shadow Clone Kunai Jutsu. Currently Naruto was only able to perform the first 2 techniques on the scroll, but he was happy with his progress. Naruto was so into his thoughts that he missed Iruka coming into the room and Iruka's speech. When Naruto stopped musing on the jutsus that Sarutobi had given him, Iruka was partway through the list of teams. Now then, Team 7 we have Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno and Shino Abiram. Your sensei will be Kakashi Haddock. Team 8 is Hinata Hyuga, Choji Akimichi and Shikamaru Nara. Your sensei will be Asuma Sarutobi. And finally, for Team 10 we have Naruto Tsuchino, Ino Yamanaka, and Kiba Inuzuka. Team 10's Jonin sensei will be Anko Mitarashi. It was a place that was both within and without of normal space-time. Off to the side of the royal palace of Pluto was a little building shaped like the Oracle of Rome. Within this inconspicuous building was the door to the cavern that held the time gates. Within that cavern stood a single figure in front of the time gates. That figure was Hatsune Miyo, the senshi of Pluto and princess of the same world. For the past month Setsuna had been frantically standing in front of the time gates, using every trick in her knowledge to manipulate the time gates to search for her missing princess. Usagi and Luna's bodies had never been found after the explosion of Pharaoh 90. This, plus the fact that Setsuna could still feel her connection of servitude to the royal moon family, told Setsuna that Usagi must still be alive. Setsuna had searched the time stream as far back as the pre-Cambrian period and as far forward as the Imperium of Man in the 40th millennium. But, for all of her searching, Setsuna had found no trace of the missing moon princess. This depressing fact had Setsuna to believe that Usagi must have been thrown out of the time stream altogether and ended up in a different dimension. This thought saddened Setsuna greatly. She had no experience with searching through alternate dimensions, and the books in her library only talked about how to travel to a known point in another dimension. However, even though it looked hopeless to Setsuna, she was determined to succeed. The scouts had been forced to tell the Toshinos about the fact that Usagi was Sailor Moon and why Usagi was missing. The pained look on her princess's parents' faces when Setsuna had to tell them that she didn't know when their daughter would be back home always haunted her mind. Setsuna would have sold her soul to Pharaoh 90 if she could give the Toshino family their daughter back. Suddenly Setsuna felt the time gate sense a burst of Lunarian royal power. However, the burst was too short for Setsuna to find more than the hyper-dimensional area code that the burst came from. Even so, this burst made Setsuna's heart fill with joy. She was closer than ever to finding where Usagi was, she would locate the particular dimension soon enough. Naruto verse. Naruto, Ino, and Kiba did not have to wait long to meet their new Jonin instructor. As soon as Iruka had announced Anko's name, Anko walked through the classroom door in her trademark jacket and fishnet outfit, sporting her grin that made most Chunin want to run away. Anko pulled out a stick of dango and ate it in front of the class, looking like she didn't have a care in the world.